All right, everybody, that wraps up the preseason. Good, very, very late evening. In fact, I don't even think you can call it evening anymore. It's night, just straight up night. And the preseason is over for the Seattle Seahawks. 37-33, they get the job done. They get the win. I think that we're probably more satisfied than dissatisfied with the proceedings out there today. And yeah, I think that we're feeling pretty good going into the regular season. So, got some stuff to talk about in this video, but before I get into all that, I do want to say that the game ended up running a little bit long. The game ended up going, I'd say, 20 minutes longer than expected, and it's already late. And by the time I get this video up, and by the time I could get a stream set up, I don't even know if I want to do it tonight. You guys, let me know in the comments if you want me to stream tonight. I'm going to have to make a pretty quick decision here, but I don't want to stream and then have nobody show up because everybody went to bed. So maybe I'll do a stream tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of my viewers, well, not a lot, but a decent chunk of them are on the East Coast, and they're definitely going to be conked out by now. And they definitely won't be able to make the stream. And even some of the West Coast people are probably like, well, let's regroup and talk about it tomorrow. So let me know what you think. I was planning on streaming, but now I'm just not so sure. The game went even longer than expected. So yeah, let me know what's up in the comments. I'm going to have to make a decision like in the half an hour to 45 minutes after this video goes live. Okay, so Seahawks get the win 37-33, which, I mean, that's actually really good for a preseason game, right? That's a lot of points. That's a lot of excitement. That's a lot of action. And again, I think for the most part, you have to be satisfied with the way things went, pending some updates tomorrow, because there were two significant, or at the very least, non-trivial injuries coming out of that game. Uchenna Nwosu gets dinged up on the first drive, leaves the game, gets iced up on the sideline, eventually goes to the locker room. Now, granted, if he had stayed in the game, he would have only stayed in the game for like 2 more plays after he left. But he did go down, and we don't know what's up yet. So as of right now, yeah, I'm aware that there's something there. Now, the something could be like, oh, he'll be fine in a couple days. But if he ends up being significantly hurt in some way, that definitely overrides the good vibes from this preseason game, because there's a very important part of this defense. And Artie Burns. Artie Burns, I think, got carted off at some point in this game. I think it was Artie Burns anyway. And while he may or may not have made the roster, that's a good player who deserves to play in the NFL this year. So we got to figure out what's going on there. But beyond that, it was a pretty good game. Offense takes the field. No, excuse me. Actually, I think the defense takes the field first, and Cleveland kind of pulled the rope on us a little bit. They pulled back. They gave us the okey doke. Did not play a lot of starters. We did not. We knew we weren't going to see Watson, but there were a lot of other Cleveland starters that did not play in this game. So we ended up getting one drive on each side of the ball of mostly our starters against mostly their backups. And it went well, right? The first defensive drive, Cleveland goes 3 and out, if not for a penalty, a roughing the passer call, which they never replayed it on my broadcast, so I don't know if it was a bad call or not, but a lot of people said it was a bad call. So there's that. And then you have the Nwosu injury on the very next play, so if Nwosu ends up being seriously hurt, I'm going to have a big bone to pick with the officials in this game, because if that call isn't made, Nwosu's on the sideline on that play. He's not getting injured by a chop block. So, yeah, we'll talk about the aggravation there, but after the penalty, Cleveland went 3 and out again, punted the ball away. Seahawks offense motors their way down the field, 5 plays, touchdown, DK Metcalf in the back of the end zone, beautiful. JSN, 2 catches on that drive. McIntosh catches a check down. Everything that you could want in an opening drive. Again, not playing Cleveland's best, not playing the best of the best the NFL has to offer, but you are getting NFL reps from your key guys, and you're seeing them play the way you want them to play. You're seeing them do the things that you wanted them to do. And I said it before this game. You don't need to see your players, you don't need to see your team do great the whole preseason. You just need to see them do good at some point to let you know that good things are possible. So when I saw that drive, I was like, okay, I've seen it now. I know it's just 5 plays. I know it's just 4 completed passes, but I saw the things that I needed to see. You see I love that play, the first completion to JSN, like up the seam, going to the back pylon of the end zone. The old Doug Baldwin play. The ability to hit that was so nice to see. The trust ball to DK Metcalf where he's in one-on-one coverage and you're just like, I'm going to go give him a chance to get the ball. Let's go. The screen pass to Kenny McIntosh. That's exciting. That is some exciting stuff from these Seattle Seahawks right now. So at that point, after that sequence, 3-and-out, penalty, 3-and-out, and then offense touches the ball, 5 plays later scores a touchdown. Basically, every starter got pulled out. McClendon Curtis is playing left tackle. And you're just like, okay, this could end up being a little bit of a dull 2 hour, 45-minute stretch. As it turns out, it wasn't, but very little starter stuff. So I do want to commend the guys for coming up with a pretty impressive 3/4 of football after the starters played. It was mostly encouraging. Sam Howell, I thought, played pretty good. We're at the point where I think we can safely say that if the Seahawks go into a regular season game and at some point need Sam Howell to do something, I feel like he can do it. Not necessarily that he will do it, but he can do it. And that's all you can ask for from a backup quarterback. I'm good with where we are with Sam right now. It wasn't perfect, but realistically, he had an 80-yard touchdown pass get called back on a holding, which that was the best throw that he's made all preseason. So I'm not upset that the play was called back or anything because it's preseason, but we need to remember that that happened. We need to look at that play and go, yeah, that's something that he did, and we need to give him credit for it. Same for Cody White, by the way. Cody White, awesome play by him. He had a pretty decent game overall. You can see those guys battling for that last wide receiver spot, and I'll tell you, I didn't see Derek Young play on the offense very much today. It was Aesop Winston Jr., it was Cody White, it was D. Eskridge. So I don't know if it's a situation where maybe Derek Young doesn't have the roster spot locked up, or maybe he does and they just don't want to play him because they already know he's making the team. Not so sure, but yeah, Sam Howell, I thought, did a pretty good job. I think that this happened because Sam Howell played a lot in the first half because Geno Smith only played the one drive. But I really didn't need to see more PJ Walker, and we did. He played better, right? It was a little bit cleaner, a little bit more competent. He looked like an NFL caliber quarterback. He looked like someone who belonged in the league, but still, I mean, the interception that got taken off the board because of the roughing the passer was like some, rookie level Madden player who doesn't understand the linebackers lurking underneath type stuff. That was bad. So, I mean, hey, he's a practice squad quarterback. No sense in getting mad about it. He was never going to make this roster, but I didn't need to see more PJ Walker. I'll put it to you that way. And again, he did play a little bit of a better game, so good for him, I guess. But we know what he is. I would have liked to have seen more Sam Howell because that's the player that actually maybe matters here. More offensive stuff. I mean, McIntosh, I thought looked really good. And you can see how dynamic a playmaker he can be. And I know the blocking stuff is a problem with McIntosh, but realistically, you can find ways around that. Get the ball in his hands, and he's doing stuff. He doesn't look like a guy who ran a 4.74 40 time or whatever it was at his pro day. He's much faster than that on a football field, and you saw that today on his touchdown run. George Holani didn't have amazing numbers. He didn't have the big numbers that McIntosh did, but that is an impressive player. I'm sure both those guys are going to make the roster now. I'd be very surprised if we didn't carry those 4 running backs with Walker and Charbonnet. So the running back stable is full. If we end up in this season at some point not having enough running backs to get by for a period of time, I don't think we can really get mad at the team for it. I think the team has done everything they can to stack their running back room. So really, really happy with that. Again, the receiver stuff, Cody White gets his 80-yard touchdown pass wiped off the board, but he still made the play, right? We still got to look at that and go, wow, that's a guy who probably belongs in the NFL. I don't think we have room for him, but I don't think we're going to be able to get him to the practice squad either anymore. So it's a tough call, right? I think that's mostly it offensively, right? I think that's most of what you can say. Offensive line was, I mean, McClendon Curtis at left tackle is always going to be a problem, but they were able to work around it pretty well and score a lot of points when he was in the game. Sundle looked all right to my eye. Haynes had the one really tough penalty, which I think it probably was a penalty, but it definitely could have gone uncalled. You see more obvious holds than that, like every third play. But other than that, I thought he played fine. A starting offensive line was out there for such a short period of time. I don't even really know how to evaluate them, but it seemed all right to me. Obviously, that was without Connor Williams, by the way. So remember, it's not even really the starting offensive line, and maybe Abe Lucas comes back sometime. So yeah, offensively, I think you got to be happy. Even when PJ Walker was in the game, they moved the ball and they scored. They did stuff. It wasn't great, but they had production. They had positive things happen through three different quarterbacks, including one that we already know is pretty atrocious. Defensively, like I said, the game starts out great, but it's only the one drive. Then the backups go in and you start getting some stuff, right? You get the penalties. There were a lot of penalties on Seattle in this game. A lot of discipline issues. We gave up a lot of third and longs, a lot of third downs just in general, honestly. Mostly struggled to contain on the scrambling quarterbacks we were up against, like DTR and Huntley. Both those guys got a lot of ability to break, contain, and scramble around, and it felt like we didn't do a great job controlling that at times. But overall, the main difference between this game defensively and the previous two was busted coverages. We had at least two busted coverages that led to big plays in this game, as far as I could tell. Maybe there were one or two more that were kind of busted that weren't as obvious. But that was the main difference. And that's going to happen when you're trying to run a defense like this. We're trying to run a more complex defense here. That means there are going to be some mistakes that result in big plays. So I think you had a busted coverage that might have been on Kobe Bryant's head. Maybe it was Radigan. I'm not 100% sure. You had the long touchdown pass where I think Kobe Bryant just didn't get back anywhere near far enough, but I'm not 100% sure on that either. I'd have to look at it a little bit more. But you also have to remember that a lot of these players that made the mistakes, that made the errors, are players that we're not going to be playing very much, if at all, this season. Some of the guys are not even going to make the team, rather, excuse me. Some of these guys might not even make the practice squad. So needs to be kept in mind. I'm sure McDonald is going to have his bone to pick with the way the defense played at points in this game, because 33 points is a lot, and it's something that I'm sure he's going to take a little bit personally. This team was not very good on third down on either side of the ball, really. Didn't force any turnovers. We had a couple close calls, and you can see this defense getting their hand on the ball. It's a completely different thing than you saw in previous years. So we're getting closer. We're getting there. You're definitely seeing that rally to the ball mentality. I liked what I saw in a lot of those screen passes, the way we quickly got up there. Tyrese Knight had this one phenomenal play on a screen pass that looked like it was a big gain, and then he just evades the blocker to make the tackle for maybe a yard, which that's the kind of stuff I thought Tyrese Knight was not going to be able to do very well in his rookie season, but he's looking, I mean, it's better than I thought. I don't want to go too far with it. I don't want to over-exaggerate it. He's still a very young player that I don't think we should play very much this year, but that is some very, very good stuff from the rookie. Excuse me. I thought that Nehemiah Pritchett and DJ James, they got beat sometimes. Don't get me wrong. They definitely got beat a few times. They gave up touchdowns in this game. They gave up some big plays. But ironically enough, I also saw some really good tackling from both of them. Open field tackling, solo tackles. And that's not their game at all. So I saw some encouraging things there as well. I think one of those guys makes the team and the other guy probably doesn't at this point. But maybe both guys do because of what happened to Artie Burns. I mean, D. Williams gave up a touchdown in this game as well, by the way, so I don't know if he did himself any favors on the make the team front there, but there's obviously a little bit of complication there with special teams versus defense versus maybe even a little bit of offense in the case of D. Williams. So I'm looking at I'm looking at all that, and I'm going, the fact that they're willing to go in there and make that tackle, like there were some screen passes, there were even some running plays where I thought they got up in run support and did their job. Contrast that to a week ago. It's a big difference. It's a big improvement. And it's the kind of stuff that they're going to need to show as we go forward here, because they don't have a lot of natural talent in that specific area. Not a ton of quarterback pressure, but Jaimie Sheriff had another really good game. I don't think he's going to make the roster, but maybe he's jumped Nelson Caesar at this point. Maybe Nelson Caesar, I didn't really see that much from him tonight. Maybe we have a swap out where Jaimie Sheriff takes his spot. That fourth edge is not going to have to do that much anyway. So why not get somebody in there that you like a little bit more, who's going to be, I think, even a little bit cheaper than Nelson. So maybe Jaimie Sheriff earned a roster spot tonight. He's had a really good preseason. I tell people a lot to be careful of the guys who tear it up in the preseason as pass rushers. A lot of them are smoke and mirrors, but he's done more than Caesar, right? He has. So that was most of the pass rush tonight. I think DJ James actually had one sack on a aborted scramble type play, and there was one other sack from was it, who was that from? There was one other sack in this game as well, but overall there was a little bit of quarterback pressure, not a ton. Obviously our backups against their backups, don't really know how to judge it that well, but it feels different. The results tonight were not great. They definitely gave up a lot defensively, but it feels different the way they rallied to the ball, the way they disguise things up front. And tonight, honestly, I don't feel like they did a ton of that. I think for the most part, they kept things simple, a lot of four-man rushes, a lot of playing things a little more straight up. And I'm sure when we get to the regular season here, especially playing some of these lesser, younger quarterbacks, these first couple weeks, you're going to see some very exotic stuff being thrown out. And we'll probably look back at a preseason game like this and say, hey, they were kind of holding back just a little bit. They were repressing the urge to show everything they got in their playbook. And special teams were awesome. D. Eskridge, and, make your jokes here. Make your jokes, but D. Eskridge, that was a good game by him. He blew a block on a fourth down, sure. But that was a good game. He made some catches. He had the big 80-yard punt return for a touchdown, which, great play. That's why, people wonder why we haven't gotten rid of D. Eskridge yet. That play is why, because he can do that, and most players cannot. That is a very rare. That is a very, very special ability that he has in the open field that we just never get to see because of injury stuff. So, is he going to make this team? I don't think so. But talent like that is why he's probably going to make a team. He's just not going to make this team. Made all our field goals, made all our extra points. Dixon had a good game, so special teams look pretty ready to me. And yeah, I think that puts a wrap on the preseason. Pretty good. Not perfect, but a lot of the problems came from guys that may not have a job in a few days. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know.